In this video, we're going to go through how to solve a multi-step equation. So if we take a look here at our first example, we have 13v minus 9v minus 15 equals 77. So we're going to combine our 13v and our negative 9v, and that's going to give us a 4v minus 15 equals 77. Then we're trying to get the v by itself, so we'll add 15 to both sides, and that's going to give us 4v equals 92. Then we're going to take that 4 and divide it by both sides, and that's going to give us v equals 23. Let's take a look at letter B. Here we have 8c plus 7 plus 3c equals negative 15. This is very similar to the last one, so you should give it a try. Push pause, and then when you're done, push play and see if you were right. So for this problem, we're going to combine our like terms. So we're going to put together our 8c and our 3c, and that's going to give us an 11c plus 7 equals negative 15. Then we'll subtract 7 from both sides, and that's going to give us an 11c equals negative 22. Then we'll divide both sides by 11, and that's going to give us c equals negative 2. Let's take a look at these next two examples. These ones are going to require some distributing first. So we'll distribute our 3 here, and that's going to give us 3z minus 18 equals 30, and now we're to a two-step equation. So we will add 18 to both sides, and that's going to give us a 3z equals 48. Then we'll divide both sides by 3, and that's going to give us z equals 16. Now this next example, we're going to have to distribute and combine like terms. So when that happens, you're going to start with the distributing. So here we have a negative 3 that we're going to distribute. So that's going to give us negative 5h, because that's just going to come down. Then a negative 30 from our first distribution, and then negative 3h, and that's going to be from our second, equals negative 6. Now we'll combine our negative 5h and our negative 3h, and that's going to give us a negative 8h minus 30 equals negative 6. Then we'll add 30 to both sides to get negative 8h equals 24. Then we'll divide both sides by negative 8, and that's going to give us that h equals a negative 3. Now when we're solving multi-step equations, that's very similar to solving a multi-step inequality. Let's take a look at some multi-step inequalities. Let's do a few examples of these to see how similar they are. So we'll solve the inequalities and then we'll graph the solutions. So here we have 3x minus 2 is less than 10, and it's a standard two-step equation where we want to get the x by itself. So we will add 2 to both sides because adding is the inverse of subtracting, and that gives us 3x is less than 12. Then we'll divide both sides by 3, and because our 3 was positive, our symbol doesn't have to switch. So we'll have x is less than 4. And then when we graph it, we'll have an open circle at 4, It says x is less than 4, or x is smaller than 4. So we want all the numbers that are smaller than 4. And that's going to be our solution. Let's try another two-step equation, or inequality rather. How about on this one, you give it a try yourself. So push pause, work out the problem, and then when you're done, push play, and let's see if you were right. So here, we're trying to get the a by itself. So we'll begin by subtracting 8 from both sides. And we subtract because that's the inverse of addition. So here we have 4a is less than or equal to negative 8. Next, we'll divide both sides by 4. And 4 divided by 4 is an a. And because our 4's were positive 4's, our symbol gets to stay the same. And negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. So it doesn't matter that the 8 was negative. That's not what flips the symbol. It's about what the denominator is, what that number is that you divided. So that number, it's about that number right there. So let's go ahead and let's graph this. So here we're going to have a closed circle at negative 2 because we have the equal to mark underneath our greater than or equal to. And it says a is greater than or equal to negative 2, meaning a is bigger than negative 2 or equal to it. So the equal to it is the coloring in, and the greater than it is when we point to the right. And that's our solution. Let's try another one. Here we have 2 plus b divided by negative 3 is less than or equal to 3. This is still considered a two-step equation. And we're trying to get the b by itself. Well, the first thing we need to move is the 2, because the 2 isn't up here with the b, it's by itself. So we'll get rid of that first. So again, we're solving for b, and we get rid of this 2. It's a positive 2, so we'll subtract it, because those are inverses. And that leaves us with b divided by negative 3 is less than or equal to 1. Then, to get rid of the division right here, we'll multiply both sides by negative 3, because multiplying is the inverse of dividing. And that's going to leave us with b is, oh, and we have an issue here, or it's not really an issue, but because the 3 was a negative 3, that means that our symbol is going to switch to a greater than or equal to. And 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. And now we're ready to graph that. So we'll have our point at negative 3, and it will be shaded in because it's greater than or equal to. And remember, greater than or equal to, when the variable's on the left, says b is larger than or equal to negative 3. The larger numbers are to the right, so we'll draw our arrow going to the right. And that is our solution. So solving a multi-step inequality works just like solving a multi-step equation. You just have to watch out for when you have negative numbers, like when you multiply or divide by a negative. Because when you multiply by a negative number, you must switch the symbol. And it's not just multiplying, it's also dividing. So again, when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must switch the symbol, just like we did in problem C.